Hey, good morning. Welcome to our new video from Hammock Haven Farm. Today we're going to do a Monterey Jack type cheese. I'm going to use the recipe from this book here, The Cheesemaker's Journey. It's the spiraled one. This recipe is different than any other recipe that you're going to find for jack. Most jacks use a mesophilic culture. This one uses a thermophilic culture. But I've played with other jack cheeses with my raw goat milk, and none of them really had a good flavor or real good texture, and this one does give you a good texture. We're going to, and good flavor actually, we're going to change this recipe a little bit, and when we get down in here into cutting the curds, this one has you use a whisk to cut the curds very finely. I want a softer, more elastic cheese this time, so I'm going to leave my curds bigger, and I'll show that to you. I have a cheese that I made back in September of 2017. So it's been aging, about 8 months. The one here, I wanted to get a drier, more crumbly texture just because I knew I was going to age it a long time. So this one here, I do believe I used, cut the curd smaller, used the whisk. But we're going to cut into that and kind of give you an idea of what these might turn out like. So first thing first, we've got our pot of milk here, and I'm raising the temperature up to 90 degrees. Like always, I stop when you are almost to 90. We're at 86.5 right now. So when it gets to about 88, I'm going to turn this off. Actually stir it up, we're in the 70s. When it gets to about 88, I'm going to turn it off, because the residual heat in the pot's going to bring up the temperature the rest of the way. So give me a second, let's move on over and cut this cheese. This puppy's been in the cave since 9/20 of last year. See, I label it and it feels pretty good. Hopefully it turned out tasty. Hard to cut into these big ones, and this would have been an 8-gallon cheese as well. That's the size I like to do. It's what fits well in my pot. Clears out my refrigerator. And I'm going to have to sample this, but I just had breakfast and brushed my teeth. I'm not sure that goes with cheese, but we'll do it anyway. There we go. You see, it's got just a little bit of openness to the curd. Looks nice and elastic. Let me cut a slice off of here. There we go. And you see it's got a real nice soft texture to it, kind of elastic, plenty of moisture in there. It's very tasty. I like that. All right, let's make another one. I've got this milk to 88 degrees now, and it's slowly climbing because I have the heat off. It's time to add our culture. This is 8 gallons of raw goat milk from our goats. Most of it was milk this morning. I'm going to use this thermophilic type B culture right here, and let's throw half a teaspoon on top of this to ripen. I like this cheese because it goes pretty fast. Ripening times are short, coagulation times are short, there's not a whole lot of stirring things or extra instructions, so it's a good way to use up a lot of milk fast, and well, relatively fast. Anytime you make a hard cheese, it takes a while, but this is a lot faster than a cheddar or a Colby or something else. All right, sprinkle that on there. I'm going to let that rehydrate for 5 minutes, and then we'll come back and stir that in. It's been about 5 minutes, and we let this culture rehydrate on the top. So I'm just going to stir it in with my ladle, up-down motion like this. Get that worked in real well, and then this needs to sit for 30 minutes to ripen. And then we'll come back and add our rennet. We'll see you in 30 minutes. It's been 30 minutes. Time to add the rennet now. I mixed 2 teaspoons of liquid animal rennet in about a 1/4 cup of water. And I'm going to mix that on in here. Stir this for about 30 seconds. And then this needs to ripen for another 45 minutes. So we'll put the lid back on and leave it at 90 degrees still, and then come back in about 45 minutes to cut these curds. We're ready to cut these curds now. You can see we've got a nice firm set. I'm going to cut these into 1/2-inch cubes. And then this recipe says to use a whisk and whisk them up into, as slowly whisk them into rice-sized pieces. I'm going to leave them as the 1/2-inch cubes. I don't want it that dry. I want to maintain a nice elastic kind of texture. So you've seen me do this before. I'm going to do a 1/2-inch cut vertically this way, then 1/2-inch cuts vertically this way. Then I'm going to use my ladle and come across and cut down 1/2-inch down the length of the pot. I'm not going to make you watch that again. If you want to see me do that, you can go on over to our Colby video. So let me get these cut up and we'll check back for a picture of them. I've got these curds cut now, and you see some of them aren't exactly 1/2 inch, so I'm going to stir these up very gently to start with. And as I do, I'm just going to cut the ones that I missed. We want to maintain the temperature at 90 degrees here and keep stirring. It says to stir every 5 minutes or so. I pretty well stir the whole time for 40 minutes just to let these curds dry out a little bit. So we'll be here for 40 minutes. Just wanted to pop back in here for a second and show you I've cut most of these curds down to the 1/2-inch size now. It's been about 5 minutes just kind of working on them, stirring gently. I'm going to continue stirring and we'll pop back in. You can see, you'll be able to see how much these curds shrink. 40 minutes now stirring these curds to keep them from clumping together, and you can see how much moisture they've lost. Our next step is going to be to raise the temperature to 120 degrees over 30 minutes time. So I'm going to put my stove on low here, and I want to stir this continually while I do it, just so that everything heats evenly through. So let me set a timer for 30 minutes and we'll keep watching this. 120 degrees is our goal. We've got this almost to 120 degrees now. I turned the heat off because the residual heat's going to help bring it up the rest of the way. As you see, these curds, some of them are kind of sticking together on me, but they've really shrunk down in size. I'm trying to keep them from matting. Now we need to hold this at 120 for the next 30 minutes. And I'm going to stir occasionally just to keep them from matting up like some of these won't do. They're getting kind of sticky at this temperature. So 30 minutes, it'll be time to drain, let them settle to the bottom, drain the whey off of them, and get them into cheesecloth and into the press. So we're seeing the light at the end of the tunnel on this one. We've held this at 120 degrees for 30 minutes now, and then I let the curds sink to the bottom. I can lift a little bit up so you can see. See, at this point they have lost all their juicy centers. They're all dried out. Yep, I'm ready to drain and get in the press. So I'm gonna have my son help me carry this pot over to the sink so we can drain it directly into the sink and not have to try to haul buckets out. And then we'll be back to load these up into the molds. Okay, now we need to get all of these curds into the cheesecloth lined mold. So I'm going to wet down my cheesecloth in the whey here. And I've got one of these great big molds with a follower, hard cheese molds. This is from Cheesemaking.com. And it's their large hard cheese mold. If I can get this lined up nicely here. All right, let's start by making a place for me to set this down. Then we can start filling it up. My cheesecloth is not cooperating. What I want to do is get it lined right to the edge, and it keeps wanting to dump down on the other side. There we go. I think we got a good start on it now. Almost need a step stool to get on up over this. I'm standing on my tippy toes over here. Now this cheese, you'll notice we haven't salted it yet. This one gets brined after it's pressed, unlike some of the others that get dry salted at this stage. once I get all these in here, it goes into the cheese press at 10 pounds of pressure for 30 minutes. And then we're going to take it out, flip it, rewrap it, and put it back in there. All right, we can leave some of those for our snacking pleasure later. I'll wrap the cloth over the top. Oh, well, there are a lot back here. That might be more than we need to snack on. There we go. All right, wrap that over the top. I'm gonna get my follower on there. Oops, get in. I'm pretty tall, but I need to be taller to get up in here today. All right, put this all over the top here for when I do my famous dripping it over the kitchen floor routine. I might need to get a bowl for under that. That's really coming. I'll let this drip for a minute. All right, let's run for it. Here we go. Okay, get this in here. Tails out. You see, I line it with aluminum foil so I don't get everything messy and wet and get the wood up wet every time. So I line it with aluminum foil, have it drain into a dish, and then I have it on a big cookie sheet just in case it drains a little more. So I like to put this other mold in here too so it presses evenly. All right, we'll hang this weight on there and be back to rewrap it in 30 minutes. I'm just going to flip this now. It's been in here about half an hour at about 10 pounds of pressure, and I want to show you how it's knitting up here as I'm splashing way all over my cameraman. I know he appreciates that. Alright, let's peel this off, and you can see how the curd is starting to knit. When you have a curd mass this big, it really holds the warmth in there, the heat in there. That helps it all knit together. And see, so let's flip it, and we're going to put it in for another couple hours. I'm going to put it in for about 20 pounds of pressure, and I'll probably check this again after dinner. And then we'll press it overnight. We'll flip it again after dinner, press it overnight, and take it out in the morning. I need to double check my recipe what weight they want it pressed overnight, so let me look at that real quick. It says leave it at 20 pounds overnight, so I'm going to go ahead and put it in on 20 pounds now, and then we'll just keep it at 20 pounds with each redressing from this point on. So we will see y'all in the morning when this is ready to come out of the press. Okay, it's been overnight on this. Let's take it out of this press, and we're going to put it in a brine for its salt. Now the brine I've got mixed up is 2 cups of kosher salt in half a gallon of water. Ooh, it's heavy. Let's gently peel the cloth off. It's a little sticky. I'm going to let this brine for 12 hours, and then I'll take it out and put it on a rack to dry for a couple of days. At that point I'm going to wax it and then put it in my cheese cave for, I don't know, as long as I want, at least 60 days. Usually I let these go about 6 to 9 months. I just like the extra flavor, but it's up to you. I'd let it go at least 60 days. So there we go. I'm going to put it down in this big pot and pour the brine over. It's going to float in the brine, so I'm going to sprinkle a little of kosher salt on the top as well where it floats. And after about 6 hours, I'm going to flip this over so that it gets brined well on the other side. So that's it. Good luck making your jack. Enjoy. If you haven't yet, please take the time to subscribe. It really helps us out a lot. Thank you.